Thank you for viewing this webinar. Presenters today are Battle Creek Community Foundation staff Ryan Calmetto, Program Director, and Jennifer Van Valkenburg, Senior Program Officer.
In this webinar, we'll provide you with information about BCCF's competitive grant process and walk through our new application for fiscal year 24-25. It's our hope this information will help you determine whether you would like to pursue applying for a competitive grant through BCCF, and that if you do decide to apply, that you have easy access to information that will be helpful for you in the process. Our objectives for the webinar include a review of where you can find the Grantee Partner Resource Guide. It's a new informational tool that's been developed to provide helpful information about BCCF grant making, a review of the competitive grant process from beginning to end so you have an understanding of the different steps, some of them are new, in the process. We'll also review the new spring fiscal year 24-25 application and provide some helpful information for completion. We are no longer requiring attendance to a grant seeker orientation session before submitting an application, and we're hopeful that this information and the resources provided will assist you as we partner together to support the community. If you have questions or need assistance, the community grant making team is here to help, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our contact information will be provided on the final slide.
First, we'll touch on the Grantee Partner Resource Guide, which can be found on BCCF's website at bccfoundation.org under Grant Opportunities, just under the Focus Areas section. On this slide, we've shown you where you can find the clickable Resource Guide button to pull up the guide, and for easy access, there is a link to it in the summary section of the General Grant application.
We recommend you review the resource guide closely before applying for a grant. The guide contains information on the following items: eligibility to apply for a grant, BCCF funding priorities, BCCF grant opportunities, competitive grant deadline dates for this fiscal year, competitive grant process overview, frequently asked questions, our new fiscal sponsor form, the new BCCF grant agreement form, and coming soon, there will be even more resources to assist and support applicants through the process.
Next, we'll talk a little bit about BCCF's competitive grants. These are for funding requests over $1,500. They are for requests that should fit into at least one of BCCF's focus areas of health, education, or livable community. We are piloting 2 general grant opportunities with deadlines in the Foundation's fiscal year, which begins April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. The 24-25 grant deadlines are April 3rd and September 18th by noon. The April deadline is ideal for summer and fall programming, while the September deadline would be ideal for winter and spring programming. The Foundation does not provide retroactive funding, which means that we cannot reimburse your organization funds that have already been spent, so planning the timing of your submission is essential. General grant requests are reviewed for funding consideration by committees made up of community volunteers, and BCCF team's role is to act as a liaison between the committee and the applicant. Requests are generally programmatic in nature and typically do not include capital or operating expenses, except BCCF does have a special fund for arts operating funding requests available to Battle Creek area's arts and culture organizations. Some examples of grant requests can be to support arts and culture projects, arts operating funding, artist funding, community events, workforce development, educational programming, health-related programs, livable community projects, and youth-related programming areas. You can apply for a general grant by going to our website and clicking the Begin BCCF Competitive Grant Application. This will take you to our grant portal. All applications must be submitted through the portal by the established deadline with all necessary attachments in order to be considered for funding.
On your screen, you'll see a flow chart that shows the steps of the competitive grant process from beginning to end. There are 3 phases to the process. Phase 1, This is where the project planning begins for a possible grant application. We recognize how valuable your time is, and we have created the Grantee Partner Resource Guide and this webinar so that you can review the information at your convenience to prepare for the application process. If after reviewing the resource guide you'd like to meet with a grants team member, please reach out to our team. We're happy to help. We are available to meet with you to discuss your ideas for your project or review a draft application up to 5 days before the general grant deadline. Phase 2 is the proposal submission and committee efforts phase, which are the steps that occur once your proposal is submitted by the deadline. Our staff reviews each submission, and then assigned grant-making committee members have the option to review the application as well. And if there are any questions about the project, they will either be emailed to you directly, or a site visit meeting will be held to learn more about the project. The additional information you provide along with the application will then go through the final review stage by grant-making committee volunteers, who will meet to discuss the merits of each request and make funding recommendations that will go to BCCF's Board of Trustees for final approval. Once funding recommendations have been approved, the request enters Phase 3, which is the award notification and grant payment portion of the process. This area of our process has significantly changed from prior grant rounds. Moving forward, you will be notified by an email generated by our grants management system that your award notification letter can be found in your organization's profile in our grant portal. This letter will include the amount of your award and a notice to complete the grant agreement contract. This is a new agreement form that needs to be completed for BCCF competitive grants. The grant agreement details BCCF award requirements, and a sample of what it looks like can be found in the Grantee Partner Resource Guide along with our website. The grant agreement will be assigned in the follow-up section of the request in your organization's profile in the grant portal, and it will include a link where the agreement can be downloaded, printed, and signed by your organization's leadership. Then the scanned agreement can be uploaded into the system and submitted. Once the signed contract is received, grant funds will be dispersed to your organization. You will then facilitate your project utilizing grant funds as outlined in your application and budget. And the final step is the completion of the final grant report, which will also be assigned in the follow-up section of your organization's profile in the grant portal. Please review your award letter for details on your final grant reporting timing requirements. In the final grant report, you'll be asked to share the impact of the grant, lessons learned through the project, and outline how the awarded funds were spent, which should match the plan outlined in your application.
The first step in the application process is the eligibility determination. To apply, you must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization or a tax-exempt public entity like a school, church, or municipality. If you are not a 501c3 nonprofit or tax-exempt public entity, you must have an established partnership with a 501c3 nonprofit organization who will act as your fiscal sponsor. It is required that the fiscal sponsor has a similar mission to your own. A fiscal sponsor will act as the fiduciary for any grant funds you may be awarded. A new component of the application is the requirement for those using a fiscal sponsor to complete a fiscal sponsorship agreement. Both the applying group and the fiscal sponsor will need to sign the form outlining their partnership. This will be reviewed in more detail later in the presentation. The next requirement is that your project must serve the greater Battle Creek or Calhoun County area. The majority of Battle Creek Community Foundation grant funds are to benefit the greater Battle Creek area, which includes the cities of Battle Creek, Springfield, and the townships of Bedford, Emmett, and Penfield. However, we do have a couple of funds that support health and arts related programs Calhoun County wide. If you do not pass the eligibility screen, you will not be able to proceed to applying for funding for a grant.
Once you pass the eligibility screening, the system will provide you the ability to apply for a general grant. A couple of questions in the application can be automatically populated for those organizations that have a candid profile. On the screen, we have provided an example of the box that will pop up before you start filling out the application, offering you the option to copy your organization's mission and the start date for your organization's fiscal year directly into the application. This is an option for your convenience. So if you do not have a candid profile, or if the information in Candid is not up to date, you will have the ability to manually enter or change the information in those fields in the application.
On the screen, you'll see the first page of the application, and throughout you'll note there are character limits for each question. We've provided an explanation for each question, so we recommend you carefully review each area for more detail. Any question that has a red star next to it means that it's a required field and will need to be completed before the application can be submitted. The first question under Organization Questions is the mission statement, which may be automatically populated by Candid. This area should articulate your organization or group's core purpose and values. Understanding this helps us evaluate your alignment with our mission and funding priorities, ensuring that supported initiatives contribute to shared objectives. In the next area, briefly describe your organization's goals and objectives. There is a limited character amount here, and summarizing may be necessary. Next, select the service area that will be impacted by your project, either Greater Battle Creek or Calhoun County. For the last question on this page, the type of funding request lists various funds that BCCF has available to support projects in the community. You're asked to select all that apply here.
On this next page of the application, if none of the types of funding requests from the previous page apply to your project, you'll be asked to explain what other category your request falls into. Next, you are asked to explain how your program aligns with at least one of BCCF's focus areas of health, education, and livable communities. If you need to review these in detail, you can check out our website or the Grantee Partner Resource Guide for more information. You'll also be asked to complete the anticipated project start date, and a new question in the application is the proposed end date of the project, as it's useful to understand the length of time you are planning in which to spend the awarded funds. BCCF award periods are for 1 year in length, and sometimes projects are expected to end sooner than the 1 year time frame. An executive project summary is an area where you are asked to briefly summarize your project in no more than 3 sentences. This is a high-level summary that highlights its objectives, who will be served through the project, the issue the project is addressing, and the expected outcomes. In the project description, provide information on the project you're seeking funds for. Consider including who, what, where, when, why, and how the project will run. This is where you can describe the project in detail so our committee members can really get to know how your project will operate. The project needs section of the application is where you can explain why this project is important and include details and data that support its addressing an important community need. The final question on this page is the target populations to be served through the project. And we'll go into that further on the next slide and review those options next.
You can select all target populations that will be impacted by your project. And in the target population narrative, you'll have an opportunity to provide more detailed information regarding the target population and include the number of people you expect to impact. Also share your plans for how you will connect and reach out to that specific population. In the project impact area, indicate what you believe will be the impact of your project on the community and also what will be the impact on your organization. In the organization readiness area, describe how prepared your organization is to take on this project and implement it. Items to include here would be staffing capacity, such as the number of staff and other resources that support the implementation of the project and keep it running. Next on the application is the financials section. This is where you'll list all the costs and revenue for your project and detail what you are requesting Community Foundation funds to support. Under Expenses for the entire project, list out all expenses for the entire project, which includes everything it takes to operate the project for the year. This area may be more costly than the requested amount you are asking BCCF to support. The request amount is the amount of money you are asking the Community Foundation to fund in support of the project. Under BCCF Funding Request Detail, list the expenses that the Community Foundation grant funds would support for the project, such as program materials, venue rental, etc. Other expenses that support the project should be included here. The total amount in this section should match the amount that you are requesting the Community Foundation to support in the previous question.
For the next question, you'll outline the revenue for the entire project, listing all revenue sources that you expect will provide possible support to pay for the project, including the amount you've requested from BCCF. Be sure to list other foundations you've approached or plan to approach for funding and the status of those requests. And that would include whether you've received the funds, it's pending, or you are anticipating it in the future. Next, you'll populate the in-kind and non-cash contributions area where you'll list any donated or discounted services or items that you are receiving or expect to receive in support of the project. This includes volunteer time and donations of tangible items that will benefit the project. These amounts will be estimates and will highlight the amount of support beyond your organization that is being put towards the project. Under Project Sustainability, indicate how you plan to support funding the program beyond the Community Foundation's support. In this area, you'll want to share how you plan to maintain funding and the variety of sources you plan to work with. In the fiscal year start area, this is where you will list the start date of your organization's fiscal year. Knowing this helps us understand your organization's financial calendar and align reporting requirements. BCCF is no longer utilizing a standard project budget format. Instead, applicants may attach their own organizational project budget that highlights revenue and expenses and in-kind contributions in support of the project they're applying for funding for. Attaching a project budget is not required, but it is recommended and should reinforce the information you've already listed in the application. The next section is regarding a fiscal sponsor. If you do not have one, you will answer no and you will move to the next section of the application. If you are using a fiscal sponsor, when you select yes, you'll proceed to the fiscal sponsor additional information area of the application.
For those with a fiscal sponsor, you'll need to indicate how your mission aligns with that of the fiscal sponsor under Mission Alignment. This is a new requirement for organizations who are not a 501c3 organization, and in addition, a fiscal sponsorship agreement will need to be completed. This form outlines the agreement between the applying organization or group and the fiscal sponsor. This is required to be signed by both parties and uploaded with your application. If you need a fiscal sponsorship agreement form, you can find it in the Grantee Partner Resource Guide or download it from our website. In Collaborations and Partnerships section, please list other groups or organizations in the community who are doing similar work to the project that you're applying for a grant for, and if and when you may be engaging with them on the project. If you are or aren't engaging with them, please explain why. In the Evaluation section, explain how you'll measure the success and effectiveness of the project and the specific metrics you'll use to evaluate the outcomes of your project. The next sections are where you can upload additional attachments. You'll need to include an operation budget for your current fiscal year, or if you have a planned operation budget for your organization's upcoming fiscal year that the project would occur in, please upload it here. You have the option to upload the program brochure or plan. This is not required, but if you have one and would like to share it with the committees, it can be attached in this area.
Other attachments to include are letters of support from those that you're partnering with on a project, or if the project you're planning will benefit another organization. For example, if you're planning a project at a school, a letter of support from the school can be uploaded in this area to show the school's interest and support of having the program at their location. If you're working with multiple partners and would like to upload more than one letter of support, you can combine them into one PDF and upload them together. There's also an option to upload additional documents that may be helpful for committees to review with your application, such as photos, flyers, or video links. Under Organization Leadership and Applicant Attestation, please list the best organization contact for BCCF to reach out to related to the proposal and include their name, title, email, and phone number. This may or may not be the applicant. Another new area on the application is the requirement to upload a letter of support for the project from your organization's board of directors. This letter must be on your organization's letterhead and dated within 3 months of the application deadline date. Lastly, you'll see the application attestation statement that indicates by submitting the grant applicant attests that to the best of their knowledge, the information included in the proposal is accurate and complete and is being submitted with the full support of the organization's leadership. Once you have all the required fields populated, the system will allow you to submit the application. This concludes our review of the application and the competitive grant process.
Thank you for reviewing this webinar. We hope it's been helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our community grant-making team members. Our contact information is listed here. It can also be found on our website at bccfoundation.org. We wish you a wonderful day and success with your grant project.